It takes a certain level of sadness. What do I mean by that? In order to finally stop all your fucking bullshit and like finally do what you want and achieve what you want in your life, it takes a certain level of sadness. It takes a certain level of struggle and misery that you finally experience to where you're finally fed up with it when you're finally done. It takes a certain level of sadness, like homeless people that have fucking made it to the top. It takes a certain level of sadness. Now, it doesn't mean it's a certain amount. It's different for each person. Some people need one experience to change them. Some people need 20 trillion experiences. Some people need so many sad and fucking terrible experiences that they're not even going to learn it in their lifetime. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I realize it takes a certain level of fucking sadness to finally, I don't want to say get on your shit, but to finally realize, like, yeah, either I'm gonna do this or I'm just gonna continue to be sad. And like sadness exists your entire life. It doesn't matter what you achieved or you learned, like you're gonna be sad. There's always gonna be some kind of sadness. So if you don't achieve your dreams, then you're gonna be sad while you don't have your dreams achieved. And in the end, when your dreams are not achieved and you're fucking 80 years old and you ain't got much fucking breath left, when your days are numbered. Then like even after you're successful, there's still going to be sadness. There's still going to be more shit to learn. There's still going to be family members and friends dying. There's still going to be tragic shit in the world. There's always going to be sadness and fucking misery regardless. So you might as well do whatever's going to make that less. Like whatever's going to make your sadness and misery overall less, do that, because there's going to be sadness and misery regardless. And like, yeah, it sounds harsh, but that's the fucking reality of it. Am I gonna act like fucking life is gonna be all fucking rainbows and fucking sparkles and glitter everywhere? Fuck no. The glitter's gonna get in your damn nose and you're gonna choke, bitch. Like, you know what I mean? Like life ain't like that. Ain't no fucking walk in the park. But yeah, like only people who experience a certain amount of struggle and sadness, and you can call it pain, but yeah, like it's pain as well. But I think more like sadness, like it takes a certain level of crying in the corner. It takes a certain level of just like wanting to end your life. It takes a certain level of trauma to experience to finally change from your bullshit ass old self to the self that you're supposed to become. It takes a certain level of sadness. And like, if you feel like you're sad and you're still in the same spot, no offense, but you're just not fucking sad enough. And it doesn't mean like be sadder in the moment. It just means like that wasn't enough. That trauma and hardship and sadness wasn't enough if you still live the same. Like if you're sad about your living situation and you haven't changed it, then you're not sad enough. You haven't experienced enough hardship and pain. Now, this is not the same type of sadness as like, oh, I fucking lost a family member and I'm still attached to them emotionally. Like, but you can use it in that sense. Like, if you're crying over someone dying, like, well, then, you haven't experienced enough deaths to understand that every single person dies and that you shouldn't be so emotionally attached to people that you feel like you lose a part of yourself. Like, it would take a certain level of sadness in that aspect to learn that. I've dealt with death since a child, and growing up I've had people die, so I can't speak for other people, but from my perspective it seems like I don't take it as hard as everyone else. I don't know, but that's from my perspective. It looks like I don't take it as harshly as anyone else. I feel like I've already achieved that certain threshold of sadness and misery from losing my dad when I was 6 years old and having to fucking process that for basically 20 years. Like, I don't like to compare myself to anyone. That's just an example of part of my story. Like, I've experienced a certain level of sadness to where, like, I don't want to say numb to it. I just understand it enough. Like, if you're broke and poor, you have to experience a certain level of sadness in order to fucking grind to make it out of that. But also, remember, this is a key point. You can experience that sadness, but it has to be balanced with your desire to get out of it. It has to be balanced with your desire to not be sad. Like, so you can be as sad and miserable as you want, but if you desire to not be sad, that's what's always going to counterbalance the sadness. If you just accept that you're sad, then it's you're gonna have to learn the hard way. It's gonna take a whole lot of fucking sadness, and you might reach the end of your life still fucking sad. There's plenty of people that are at the end of their life and they're sad. I see how fucking mean these people are. Fuck, man. But anyway, not to pick on anyone. Yeah, it takes a certain level of fucking sadness and misery and trauma and pain and negativity to finally shift your behavior into what you want it to be. You know, like it takes a certain level of like, why the fuck is this happening to me? Or why do I have to go through this? I don't want to feel this anymore. It takes a certain number of times or a certain amount of time or a certain level of that to finally change you, you know? And some people experience hardship and they're motivated for a second to change their life or change that part of the world or learn better, but then they just get back into their whatever bullshit. And it's like, yeah, that's fine. That was just a temporary shit. You weren't sad enough. You didn't experience enough sadness, you know? Like, there's people who've been completely drug addicted or addicted to anything, whatever your vice is, and you know you shouldn't do it, and you know it's fucking you up, you know? Like, are you just gonna fucking continue doing that or not, you know? Like, it takes a certain level of sadness and being like, fuck, I'm fucking, I always use this example. I'm a meth smoker and I need to fucking not be this. I'm so fucking sad that I'm gonna do more drug. But some people get so sad that they're like, okay, I'm not gonna do this anymore because the only way to stop this sadness is to stop doing it. You know, with any drug addiction, any kind of addiction or whatever. Like, how I'm not saying like do it more to produce more sadness, but it takes a certain level of like trauma and sadness to combat your will to survive. You know, some people I guess just don't got it, or some people are too weak. They don't actually care. On the inside they do, but you know, their care cannot outbalance their sadness. But for the majority of people, I can't even say for the majority of people because it doesn't work like that. You know, I feel like as long as you have some spark of will to try to escape it, then it's possible. Then all you need is a certain threshold of sadness to be your certain recipe for changing yourself. You know, like there's so much stuff that I know, but it's because I fucking like struggled and failed through it and I fucked up and I was miserable and fucking sad and fucking pain going through it. I was miserable. You know, like I'm an overall positive person. I do notice that I know a lot of stuff, but like I've struggled a lot. I've struggled a lot mentally. For like my hugest struggle is knowing everything I'm supposed to do in my entire life and not doing it. Like that's a fucking struggle, man. It's like reaching for something that's just out of reach, and it's like all you have to do is reach farther, and you fucking reach farther, and it just goes a little bit farther out of your reach. It's like, oh my god, that's the most fucking torturous thing ever. It's like running on a treadmill to chase after food when you're starving. It's like, fuck, man, if only I could find a way to slow down the treadmill. Like, no, bitch, you find a way to run faster than the treadmill can produce. That's what it is, you know? And then you run for so fucking long, you're like, fuck this, dude. I gotta find a fucking different way to do this, or I gotta overcome this treadmill. If the max speed on the treadmill is 10, I gotta go fucking 15, bitch. Like, no. But anyway, not to get off topic. Yeah, it takes a certain level of sadness in order to fucking overcome all your struggles and achieve every single achievement you're trying to acquire. You know, like anything you're trying to fucking overcome, anything you're trying to do, it takes a certain level of sadness and acknowledgement of that sadness, and you mix it with your will to continue. So if you're still stuck in the same spot, then that means that you're not sad enough.